Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Kirk. I'm the Director of Community Investment with the Indie Arts Council. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Robert D. Beckman Jr. Emerging Artist Fellowship. I'll talk you through what the eligibility criteria is. I'll talk you through the framework of what the fellowship itself looks like. Talk through some previous fellowship awardees and how they use their funding. We'll look at the selection criteria, what the panel is looking for when they review applications, and then we'll go into the application itself so you can see what that looks like firsthand and walk you through the system. So the Beckman Emerging Artist Fellowship is just one of the fellowships one of the fellowships and programs that we have at the Indie Arts Council. This is a sampling of some of them. We also have artist grants for an open artist calls for various projects. So I would recommend going on our website to get a full kind of spectrum of that, and you'll see some of that in the online system once we go into that as well. But our Dahan Artist of Distinction Award is for visual artists. Once they get to a certain level of their career, it's an innovation award that provides opportunity for creative risks and exploration as you work through a specific project. The Creative Renewal Arts Fellowship is for artists and arts administrators of any discipline, any arts organization, to basically get $10,000 funding to do whatever they want, really. It's a program designed to help garner more inspiration for artists and arts administrators to do their work. And then we have the WUGLAC mental health grants, which are for therapy, wellness programs, yoga. They're for group therapy, individual therapy, etc. So that's small stipends towards those funds to help support artists as they process and need mental health support and wellness. So. Okay, so this is the breakdown of the timeline for the Beckman Fellowship. The application is released August 7th. The deadline for the draft submission is September 17th. What a draft submission is that you can submit early to have your application reviewed by staff before it goes to the final submission. So we review it, we provide feedback, and then you can revise and submit for the final deadline. The final application deadline is October 9th. And then we will have a review process in October and November. You'll be notified of your award by early December, or notified of your status. The fellowship itself takes place for a calendar year. So it starts January and goes to December of next year. So it doesn't have to take the whole year, obviously, to do whatever you're proposing, but it has to happen within that time frame. So obviously an emerging artist is a term that can be misconstrued, has multiple meanings depending on what program is using it. So we just want to be very clear about what we mean when we say an emerging artist. So this is eligibility requirements. You have to be working for 1 to 3 years. So more than 1 year, less than 3 years to be considered emerging. Not currently pursuing an undergraduate degree. So the intention is that you would be hoping to pursue art full time. You can have obviously a part-time job. You can have other courses without a full degree program, because that means your focus is obviously elsewhere. Age is not a consideration. So you can be an emerging artist and you can be, transitioning from another career into artistry. So, you can be 18, you can be 63, however old or young, or the spectrum, whatever that means to you. There's no minimum education requirement for this fellowship, so we welcome self-taught artists. We welcome folks that have, degrees in art. The entire spectrum of education on this is open. So as you think about applying and think about what the parameters you want to kind of set for yourself for what you want to do with your fellowship program, think about what are some opportunities that you can leverage. Think about this program has been going on since I think 2007, so there's plenty of alum to the program. So feel free to connect to any of them and talk about what their experience has been, what they use their funds towards, and then think about kind of long term, what do you want to see for yourself in the next 5 years? What are the future plans that you have for yourself? Is whatever you're thinking about and proposing for this fellowship feasible, achievable, recognizing the funding limitations, recognizing the timing limitations, etc. And then be mindful as you submit your application itself. So you'll be required to submit support samples to kind of showcase your artistry. So think about, is there a story being told there? Is there consistency in the artistry that you're presenting? And also think again about that draft deadline. If you're able to get it done in time to submit for that, then we can review and provide feedback. Otherwise, you can also just submit for the final deadline. So the criteria that the panel looks for, and these go kind of hand in hand with the questions that you're being asked as well. So just be really mindful that you're answering questions that are being asked. But the criteria that the panel considers is kind of the overall presentation of your work and the demonstration of your talent and your artistry. A commitment to growth within the art form. So obviously it's an emerging artist fellowship. The purpose is to kind of grow and get yourself kind of to that next stage and the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. So this is kind of one support system for those steps. What will the activities that you're proposing to do through your fellowship, how will that benefit, how will that impact your career goals and your artistic development? And then the feasibility of the proposed project, including, again, that year timeline and the scope of activities. The grant itself is for $3,500. So recognizing that there are some limitations for how broad you may want to go there, just be thinking about that in terms of feasibility of what that means for your project. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the narrative questions that you're going to be asked. So the questions in the application you'll have to respond to. And this year will be the first year that we're actually giving an option to respond in written form, video format, or audio. So you can submit, you can write into the application, or you can upload a video or audio file responding to the question, recognizing that some people work better in one medium versus the other. So just think also too about which is most beneficial for you in that. So the first question is to describe your work. What do you do? Why do you want to pursue this work, or have you pursued this work? Where does your inspiration come from? What are your passions? Are there any themes kind of coming out of your medium and what that looks like for you? If you have any career highlights or milestones, if you're a visual artist, are there any exhibitions that you've been a part of thus far? If any performances that you've done as a performing artist, any milestones that you've hit that you want to share with the panel. And then, so the first question is who are you? The second question is what do you want to do? So what activities are you going to do with the awarded funds? What is the purpose of them? So for example, if one of our current fellows has undertaken some instruction on their art form to kind of solidify and improve their music career. They want to get connected to various folks in that field, which we also help support in that. So it's a financial component, but then we are also a continuous resource to help support you in connecting with various folks in your industry, or if you have specific questions about parts of the work in the industry, we're also happy to connect you with folks or answer those questions ourselves. But really think about, you know, the who, what, where, when, why aspect of it all, the how. What is it that you want to do through this project, and how is it going to help you? So be thinking about, like I said, for folks that need, you know, as an emerging artist, folks that need those additional resources and connections to folks, you know, what would be the most helpful to you? How do those connections kind of align with where you want to go? Be specific about your needs, because that helps us on the back end too, if you were awarded the funding, to allow us to know, you know, where should we be connecting you? How do we support you further? And then where do you want to go from here? So what's your future vision? What does the next 5 years look like? So after this year-long fellowship, and that time that you have direct connection to us and to this funding and so on, what does it look like in the next 5 years from there for your career, for your artistry? How do you want this grant and this program to kind of support you in that next stage? So these are examples of fellowship activities. Again, degree granting institutions are not allowed, but artistic instruction, artistry supports in that. So if you're trying to explore a new medium, and you want to take a couple of classes to help you learn more about welding or whatever the case may be, that is allowed. So examples: exploration of a new body of work. You can use the funding towards materials, renting studio space, performance space, rehearsal space, etc. Attending workshops, getting instruction into your artistry, apprenticeships, if you find an apprentice program that you need support on. All of those are examples of fellowship activities. Again, restrictions from funding: they can't be used for tuition, fees, or expenses at any degree granting institution. You cannot re-grant or redistribute the money to another person or organization. But there are some qualifying redistribution examples. So for example, if you are taking a course and getting instruction from someone, you can obviously pay them. If you need assistant support in your studio to help you with a specific project, if you need you know, a photographer to come in and photograph your work so that you have digital examples of that, those are ways that you can pay another person to support you in your work, but you can't distribute the entire funding to another person. And then debt reduction is also another restriction, so it can't be used for student loan payments, etc. So the next couple slides are examples of previous fellows and what they've done with their funding. So in 2022, we had 3 fellows. The first one was a painter. Taylor used the funds to focus on, she had kind of 3 objectives for the next stage of our career. So visibility, scale, and professionalism. And so she used the funds towards social media marketing, submission fees for art competitions, publications, professional scanning of her work, licensing and such, framing, supplies, etc. So a lot of different options. And then she was also able to get connected through us with some folks that were very specifically knowledgeable in social media for a visual artist career. So she was able to get not just the financial aspect of it, but also that connection and that resource for her career as well. Chantel was a 2022 fellow as well. She's a spoken word and artist and poet. She had some plans to do writing retreats and fund work on her next poetry book. She used the funding towards consultation and videography and all of these different things. She did come up across some restrictions during some cancellations due to COVID and all of those different things. So her original trajectory of which writing retreat she was meant to go on kind of veered into a couple of different directions. And we kind of worked through that. And so, obviously we recognize that things come up, but in your application, you kind of want to state what your intent is. And then as we kind of go through the year, if things come up, we can work through that and get approvals and so on. So, and then finally, Natalie was a choreographer. She did her final performance was new works by LGBTQIA plus identifying choreographers to create these gender inclusive space for dancers and think about how casting can look in a gender inclusive space. And so she had a final performance and all that, but the funding was utilized for supporting, and this is an example of some of that redistribution that is allowed, supported funding some of those dancers for her work, presentation and for the space and etc. So that's another option. Okay, so again, these are the main dates and deadlines. We will, right after this, I'm going to walk through the application itself, but I do want to give you a couple of applicant tips before we go in there. So we have guidelines on our website, go through them. And if you have questions, obviously reach out, but they're fairly thorough. So a lot of your questions will be answered in there, but again, if you need any further clarifications, etc., you're welcome to reach out to us. There are those main narrative questions that we talked about. All of them need a response. You're required to respond to them before you click submit anyway. Think about if you are more comfortable in the written video or audio formats. All of them, there's no preference on our end of which you submit. So just think about your own comfortability and what makes sense for you. Double check your responses for clarity and completeness. So make sure that you're answering the question that's being asked of you. Be sure that your work samples showcase your artistry and that makes sense, that you're kind of showcasing yourself and there's consistency there. We recommend having someone else review your application because sometimes when you're writing, it makes sense in your head and may not make sense to somebody else. So always have another person look at it as we recommend. Some that can be us if you're ready for the draft deadline date. But if not, it's just a friend, a colleague, somebody to help give you an extra set of eyes. We have open office hours, which are every other Tuesday, I believe. And they're listed on our website. So go there, you can register for those and at any point during the time that the application is open, and we can help support you. If you have a question outside of those open office hours, obviously you're welcome to email us, call us, etc., and we can help you there as well. And then we recommend start early, submit on time. There's always people that come in the last second of the deadline, and sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't. So just be really mindful of that, and we're here to help. This is our contact information. So grants@indiearts.org gives you a variety of folks that can help respond to that. So that email goes to me, it goes to my colleagues. So if one of us is out or whatever the case may be, someone will respond to you through that email address. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing my screen or reshare to show you the website. Okay. Okay, so this is the grant platform that we use, indiearts.grantplatform.com. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, you can register for an account. You can do so with your email address, phone number, or you can do it through Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, whatever makes more sense for you. Right away on our website here, you can see that there are some applications open. Another option is to click Start Application on it. So here's Beckmann. You can click Start Application and it'll pop up and kind of go right there, but it'll still lead you, if you have not already, it'll still lead you to a registration page before you're able to start that application. So we will log in here. I'll just click that. So again, see, it leads you to this login or register. I already have a login. So I'm just going to go through the login process. And then it takes you to this main page. I'm recording this when the application is not open, so you won't, right now, you don't see it automatically, but it will be listed here. But again, we have a bunch of open calls for various things. So if you're interested in looking at any of those, you can look at those open calls as well. If you have already started an application for something and you scroll down, you'll see something that says My Applications, and you'll see everything that you've started, in progress, or submitted. This is obviously my test account, so you see all the various test ones that I've done. So I'm going to go into the system where I have this open. Okay. So when you find the Emerging Artist Fellowship, oops. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay. When you find the Emerging Artist Fellowship program, you click Start Application, and it will take you to this page. So you can see here, your first option are to submit your artist name. So again, I'm Test Artist 1. It automatically populates the program. I go Save and Next. And then you're required to go through the eligibility check. So obviously you can't see anything else in this space. You can't go to the other tabs until you submit the eligibility check. And that's just for purposes to say, you know, we don't want you to go through the whole process of filling out the application, only to find out, you know, later on that you're not eligible. So go through this first. And click through. Let's see, I live in Marion County. This program is open to folks in all of the donut counties as well. So you can let us know where you live in this drop-down menu. Are you pursuing a full-time career in the arts? Say yes. Are you working in the arts for at least 1 year and less than 3? We talked about the eligibility criteria. I'll say yes. And do you plan to live and work in one of the counties listed above for the duration of the 12-month fellowship? So again, we recognize that you can't really mandate what happens after the fellowship. Our hope and our preference is really that you stay in the Indianapolis area after you live here or after you are a part of this program, because you know, our hope is to really invest in the indie arts community. We obviously can't mandate that. We do want you to at least commit to living here for the duration of the program. And that's doesn't include, so if for some reason your project for the fellowship includes traveling to France for a writing retreat, obviously that's fine. But we hope that you plan to live and or work in the Indianapolis area. for the program. So let's say yes, and then you'll click on this check eligibility button here. Something will pop up and say, congratulations, you're eligible. And now you can see all of the tabs for the application itself. If you are not eligible, something will pop up and say, sorry, you're not eligible. You'll also get email response for both eligibility criteria, so both eligible and not eligible. So that comes via email as well. The first tab is your applicant information. So now that you've submitted the eligibility check, you can go and look through all these tabs to peruse before you really get started if you want. But then when you're ready, you'll go through and you'll submit all this information, address. This is all just kind of applicant information, things that you want to share with us. What's your art form? If you are outside of these kind of bucket parameters, you can click other and then indicate here. This is both a description of your proposed fellowship, but also you'll say what your primary art form is in this box too, if you selected other above. And then we ask for demographic information, and that's really for our own tracking purposes. It's not a factor necessarily in your in selection and for the panel, but it's for our tracking purposes. If you, for some reason, don't wish to share any of the demographic information, there's always a prefer not to answer button. These are required, but again, there's prefer not to answer buttons for all of them. Some of them have prefer to self-identify as well. So again, you'll see prefer not to answer throughout if you so choose. But it's really to help us track and to make sure that we're creating equitable programs and that our reach is broad enough to get folks from various demographic communities. Okay, and then we'll go to the proposal narrative. So like I said, we allow you to respond to any of these narrative questions in a video format, audio format, or written. So if I select for the first one that I want to submit via video, this will pop up again, similarly with audio, and you can select your file, click on select file, and then you're able to or drag a file in, you're able to upload your file here. You're welcome to select video for some and written for some, or audio for some. So, you know, it varies depending on each question. If you select written, you'll be able to put in your written response here. So, and you can select for each one if you have a different preference. And those are all the same questions that we just looked at in the PowerPoint. And then supporting documents. So the first thing is you're required to submit a resume. So you can drag that here. And then down here, we ask for up to 10 work samples. You don't have to submit all 10. We recommend submitting at least 2 so folks can get a sense of who you are. But typically we usually probably get around 5 to 7. But again, that depends on you and what your preference is there. You can also submit up to 2 pieces of professional documentation, and that can be letters of support, reviews of any exhibitions or performances that you've had, anything that is specific to your professional experience as an artist. You'll see here, you can also add a link or video. We recommend that you don't just link to your personal website or your personal social media, because it's not direct at what specifically you want the panel to see there. So if it's a general website, then they might pick and choose what they see on their own terms. And so it's less directed by you, right? So we ask you to kind of be specific. If you're adding a link make it to one specific piece or one specific performance or whatever the case may be, so that folks, you're portraying exactly what you want to portray. So you just click add link there, you put in the URL. If you have any explanation of what it is, you can put that in there too. When you're selecting your attachments, it does not give you an opportunity to rename files in the system. So make sure that it's named whatever you want it to be named on your computer, your phone, whatever, so that when it's uploaded, you'll see it as you want to see it. You'll see here that we require a minimum of 3 documents. So that's your 1 resume, and then at least 2 work samples, or 1 resume, 1 professional document, and 1 work sample, or, you know, whatever the case may be. That's a minimum. And then maximum is 13. So you can provide your resume, up to 2 professional documentations, and then up to 10 work samples. So those are the parameters there. Whenever you're done, you can submit preview if you want to see the application in a different view, or if you're ready and done, you can just submit application. If you're submitting for the draft deadline, you can just submit as normal, and we'll look at it, provide you feedback, and we'll turn it back into in progress so that you can go back and edit and on all of that stuff. So you can submit normally just here. If you for some reason, you know, did part of it, did the application information, but then needed some more time to go back into the proposal narrative or to compile your supporting documents, that's totally fine. As you go through, you'll want to click save. And then if you're not ready to submit yet, click save and close, and it'll take you back to your home page. And then you'll see, now I have this application that's open, it's in progress, I am eligible. And so if you want to come back to it, you can always click the application button. You can also see here, if for some reason you're a person that needs to see things in print or PDF and not as it looks on the website, there's a little red PDF button here on the right-hand side that you can click, and it will open up a PDF or allow you to download that. Yeah, so those are the various components. Again, if you have questions as you go, if you have technical issues or anything, just email us at grants@indyarts.org. But other than that, you can go in. Again, the guidelines are really helpful. They have a lot of good information in there about the various parameters for supporting materials, about the narrative questions, about the criteria, selection criteria, and all of that stuff. So we recommend definitely going in there. All right, that's all I have. Thank you so much for listening to the workshop. Again, join us for open office hours if you need support as you go through your application. Thanks. Bye.